Hello, 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 everyone, and you are welcome to season 3 of the My Take Show. Woohoo! I can't believe it. Noise and bells and whistles. This is truly exciting, amazing for us. What started as, a conversation with me and my girlfriends has just turned into formal seasons. Hi, everyone. My name is Adenike Israbolarewa, and it is such a joy to be here. I'm the host of the My Take show, but I don't host it alone. I actually have with me my girlfriends who are always on the panel and ready for us to tackle the issues for the day. Today, I have two of my friends joining us live, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Josen. We're so grateful for season three. Thank you so much for joining us. Married for over 21 years with three wonderful kids, and I'm glad to be back on season three.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lola. Um, 21 years married as well, plus to the glory of God. I'm happy to be here and excited to be starting season 3 with my sisters here today.
Yay, that's exciting. Like I said, I'm Adenike. Also, one of the things that I think we have as bonds is because with me and my friends, we do life together. I've been married for 20 plus years, and we tend to have similar stories because we were, just within a certain period. So we've actually had the joy of experiencing a lot together, which is why we enjoy this show so much. But I'm sure you can see that although I don't have my other three wonderful sisters with us today, Feyi, Jumoke, and Tutu, we actually have a special guest with us. I'm going to let him introduce himself. However, I just want to welcome officially Pastor Dr. Bright F.A. Winner. I always say Dr. Bright is, simply put, is a lover of Jesus Christ. For someone who gave his life to Christ at the age of 15 years old, he's been passionate about the things of God, very much involved, in ministry, very learned. He has executive MBA from Jack Welch Management Institute in Virginia, USA, and a doctorate from North Carolina College of Theology. So, given the kind of conversation that we're going to have, I'm excited to have a gifted conference speaker, a motivational speaker, a pastor, a Bible teacher, an author, and a life coach. I'll let him tell us a bit about how long he has been married and a bit about his family. And I can't think of anybody else that we would love to have with us to talk about the topic for today that I'll be introducing shortly. Welcome so much, Dr. Bright, for being a part of today's show.
Wow, wow, wow. This is awesome. Well, to all your audience, millions of fans all over the world, I'm glad to be here. And I have been married by the grace of God for more than 26 years. And to the same woman, yeah, to the same woman. That's very important.
Very.
And we are blessed with two beautiful, wonderful children. Faith, my son is 25, and my daughter Ifeoluwa, she's 21. And it's just amazing to be here. I'm just glad to hear, to learn, and to share one or two things that will be hopefully will be a blessing to somebody out there. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It is our joy to have you here. And for those who may be joining us for the first time, My Take is a forum where we ladies hang out, unwind, and we chat about the things that are happening around us while we lend our voices to some of the social issues in the world today. We believe it's important to have conversations. We live in a world that's so social media driven. A lot of people feel like they're living their lives in a fishbowl. And we see so much that's permeating into society, into today's culture. And we think it's important to have a voice into it. Our goal is to promote a culture of love and compassion, as well as truth and candidness. So, on today's episode, we want to address a situation that has plagued some families. And that's why the theme is Help, I am not the father. Now, most of us have seen the shows where people are brought to, the TV screen, and somebody says, I'm pregnant for you, and the person is saying, no, I'm not the one. They take a DNA test and they find out they're not the father, or they find out they are the father. Well, this is a little bit different. Unfortunately, we're starting to see, especially in, maybe much more obvious within certain cultures, certain scenarios, certain part of the world, real life scenarios. This isn't for the show, this isn't for media, this isn't for television. These are families that find out years into their marriage, their relationship, that husbands are finding out that the children they thought were theirs are really not theirs. A request for a DNA, for example, for immigration purposes, health purposes, to see whose blood matches for a procedure, or maybe just plain trust issues, have unveiled truths that have been very shocking to families. Unfortunately, has really brought a lot of pain, hurt, betrayal, brokenness because of what is, has turned out to maybe lies or deception. But the question is, what next? What are these fathers supposed to do after receiving such news? Can we really judge whatever decision they're going to make or take? Today, we're going to be sharing our take, but would love to hear your take as well. So thank you for joining us in the audience. Please feel free to use the chat to ask your questions and to give your input. So before we get into this, let me take a step back. We've heard of different stories of why people do DNA when children are born in hospital. Maybe, even just for, at a point to prevent, the theft of a child or whatever. But the question is, and I've heard people say this, should having a DNA once a child is born be a legal requirement that when a child is born, the parents must do a DNA to confirm before putting both parents' name on the child's birth certificate? Or is that intrusive? Is it anybody's business? I don't know what you think. Lola, maybe you can kick us off on your thoughts about this.
Oh, you start with me. Huh? Well, I for some reason on for the past like several months, I've been watching the show Paternity Court religiously every day. I don't know why. We all watch it in my house. It's like, oh, is it 5 o'clock? Ah, Lola show is on. Let's tune in. I don't know why I'm fascinated with it. But one of the things I've learned is that the repercussions, the aftermath of these things is so widespread, so incredibly widespread. Even when in the courts it's proven that the guy is not the father, if his name is on the birth certificate, he's legally responsible for that child till age 18. Even if it's proven, he has to, I mean, there's so many other things he has
Wow.
to do. If the other person, if they know who the other person is, the actual father, and he steps up, there's ways that they can, deal with it, and, maybe the responsibility is lessened on his part. But the repercussions is just so much that I just wonder, is it really, I mean, the impact is beyond just the man and the woman in the case, in this case, and if you're the, I don't want to say unfortunate or fortunate person that is the one that finds out that the children are not yours, aside from the emotional stuff that you have to deal with, just the financial responsibility alone is worth, delving, for people to just take a step back and think about this really deeply before moving forward. And so I just think of just the impact on the children, impact on the external family that would have invested in the child. But most importantly, given what I do as in the field of child protection, I really just really think about the children, and what I don't think people think about the children enough in these scenarios and what impact it has on them.
Hmm. Hmm. Dr. Bright, do you think, and I can imagine, do you think it would occur to a man, with all of this said, let's even say, let me give a scenario of, maybe him and his wife have had some challenges, they've had some difficulties, maybe, their marriage has been through a storm, but now they're in a good place. And shortly after they sort of came into a good place, the wife suddenly says she's pregnant. And the husband is wondering, quite soon, given when, just maybe from a background. And a man is concerned or suspicious, should a man be asking for a DNA? How will it come across? Or do you think men want to ask that question in today's world? But I mean, I can't imagine as a woman if you've just given birth and the first thing my husband wanted to say was, can we do a DNA on this child? I mean, do you think it's even something that most people would think about, or is it very offensive? What are your thoughts, given a lot of the stories that we're hearing today, and men who are saying maybe every man, maybe there should be a DNA immediately after a child is born? I've heard women say, but I've heard some men say, maybe that's not a bad idea. What would you think?
Wow. Well, interestingly, this issue came up 2 days ago, just 2 days ago, before Pastor Tosin reached out to me. I was like, how come? So coincidence.
Wow.
When I saw the topic, I said, really? And what was the issue? The issue was a friend was telling me, we were just having a conversation in the car. And he said about a friend who lives in Atlanta, and his former wife lives in Dallas, and that this guy is still struggling with the fact that his wife, after several years, he caught his wife sleeping with another guy. And this guy was his best friend, kind of. I was like, so he moved on, she moved on, but now he's trouble because any other woman he meets, he can't just trust them anymore. And he's like, he met somebody new and he's like, where are you? Who are you with? Who is that guy? Why are you dressed like this? He can't just trust. And this woman is like, this guy needs rehabilitation. He needs some help. And he's like, I don't even believe the children are mine anymore because I need to. So he's doubting everything about his marriage and everything. So my own perspective is pretty much, if the foundation is destroyed, the house comes down. The house comes down. And so this is the core. It goes to the core of the foundation of my relationship.
Yes.
This issue we are talking about, right? This is very deep. This is deep stuff. Deep stuff. If I find out my kids are not my kids, I know I'm a pastor. I know I love the Lord, but this is really deep. So whether men are now told or women are going to get DNA, that's a big question, really. Because if you enter into a relationship with doubts, that relationship is pretty over. Because you can't just be, you are sleeping with your wife and you're doubting her if she's had an affair before she came on the bed. It's just a messy situation. So I don't agree to you having DNAs as a standard, because that's just sowing the seed of doubt from the get-go. I don't know how how people can live with that. Just entering a relationship with doubt. I don't know how that will work.
That's true. That's true. And wow, how timely to just, like you said, that you were literally having a conversation with somebody who, has now started to question the paternity of their children. This issue is so, it's shocking how it's playing out right now. And I don't even know if it's social media that's letting us know more about it, or if it's always been like this, but it's just a generation that's now more in tune. But you made a great point that said, this just hits at the fabric of relationships. And I'm curious, Tosin, what you think. That like Dr. Bright was saying, that first, I liked his response that, look, if you're going to be in a relationship where you're going to be saying, once we have the children, we have to do a DNA, there is a seed of doubt. Marriage was not designed to operate that way, because the fabric of marriage is trust. But now we see when this trust that you built this foundation on is ripped apart, do you think any marriage can ever survive this sort of betrayal, where a man finds out that the child he thought was his for 4 years, for 5 years, for 10 years, in some cases for 18 years, was not his child? Tosi, do you think a marriage can survive this? I know you are, we are either ministers, and I love what Dr. Bright says. He says, I'm a pastor, I'm a man of God. Wow, there's no clear cut answer to this. What would you say?
Going back to the first question, and Lola raised up something which, for me, the stakes are so high. And because the stakes are so high, I would love to see that the hospitals are requiring this, maybe a state mandate. So it wouldn't necessarily be the man asking, can we get a DNA test, whereby the woman feels like, oh, so you don't trust me? I wish it was something that was done universally. Do you understand? Like, oh, you having a child, the hospital requires that, or the state requires us to do this. I would love to see that in an ideal world, because the stakes are so high. Lola mentioned, which is true. I've seen episodes where, because the guy had doubt later on in the marriage, time had elapsed for him to get out of his obligation. And so a lot goes through. And then the children, we're putting the children through a lot. You understand? So because the stakes are so high, I would love for that to be a statewide thing. Going to this question, can a marriage survive this type of deception? I believe it depends. It depends on how honest the person, the other spouse, who knows, mostly the woman, of course, comes forth with such information. If it was a time whereby they were, separated for a while, or it was a time where they knew that they were on shaky grounds, I believe, yes, some marriages could survive. But later on, for medical reasons or for immigration issues, you have to take a DNA, and it's just in your face for the man. That could be a big pill to swallow. So yes, some marriages could survive, but I'm not sure about a lot. That's what I have to say.
Hmm.
I would like to, sorry, I would like to even go, because it's important to also for us to talk about why we even chose this topic to talk about today. Like,
Hmm.
why is this even a subject that we're even talking about or delving into, right?
Yeah.
And us ladies, we know that this has come up several times in different conversations. Either we've seen it online, or even like close to home, where we know people who have been affected by this in one way or another, or and one of the things that we keep circling back and talking about is, does religion, does faith, does the church have a role to play in this? Either does the church have a role to play as to why this is even becoming more prevalent? Does the church have a role to play, as in, can they mitigate this,
Hmm.
in the mitigation of the increase, of this? Because I was looking up the statistics online, and this has become like, I don't know why, but it seems like Africa is leading the pack in this type of issues. Why
Right.
is it increasing? Why are we seeing it more in the church? What can be causing it? Why do women feel the pressure to pass off somebody else's child as their
Hmm.
husbands or their own? Why is that increase?
Hmm.
And maybe because I'm in public health, and we always focused on prevention, and cause and prevention is like, why is this becoming almost an epidemic in and of itself? What can we do about it? What can be done about it? We've talked about,
I like
maybe
that.
testing, having DNA tests be part of the daily meal run they run on children. When just like blood type or any other thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
But then we also know that, then what? Okay, so you're in the hospital, your husband is there, the test results come out, and it says you are not the father. Then what? Where do you go from there? What impact does that have on the relationship? And what do you do if you're the pastor and they come to you with this problem? We tested this in the hospital. How do you counsel such a couple? I think those are like real things that we have to deal with. Um,
Absolutely. I like somebody, the comment that says, I like that name, said a test from birth. And I like the way Tosin positioned it that, it's not the spouse who's requiring it. Because in a country where, like, the US, for example, where we see these shows, the fact that as long as your name is on it, then you're responsible. It's a huge burden. And if you're going to put that burden on anyone, then it's very difficult. Like Dr. Bright said, that, not couples by virtue of, and we're sticking to a marriage situation right now, where there's a level of trust, would not voluntarily think that's the direction they should go in. But if it's mandated and it's part of what you do, we test the baby's blood type, we make sure it's the right parents, blah blah blah. Whatever the DNA is, not for the hospital to determine, but you get the DNA results and then they ask you, so whose name should be on it? Because couples can have different arrangements. So at that point, the whoever's name is on it is deliberate. I think that's, to the last point, that would be one of the key steps. But I love something Ola said, and I was going to ask, a question to, to say that, we said, it's very difficult for a marriage to survive this type of deception. But before, I just asked certain things, Lola said something, and maybe we should take a step back. Why do women feel the need to pass another man's child off to their spouse as their own? And I think, and if we bring it closer home, like we said, because we see a lot of it with people that are in church. At times I wonder, is the pressure for a woman to be a mom, have a child by all means, does it lead to that? Is it the pressure of, because before a woman has an affair, in most cases, women typically, it could happen, but women typically do not have one night stands with strangers. Even if it was a one night affair, it started off emotionally somewhere. They may not have planned for it to end there. And if it happened for one night, they regret it and they don't want it to ever happen again. But women rarely have one night stands with total strangers. So if we just step back a little bit, what are some of the things that sometimes we feel that maybe we're not addressing enough of? Um, Pastor Bright, do you feel sometimes that in the church we don't address so many issues that could deal with infertility, with challenges in marriage, when a man is not happy and he has an affair, a woman is encouraged to forgive him, and what can you do better? Because people don't think a woman could be unhappy and have an affair. The problem with a man is that he has a child and the child can be outside the home and it's different. But when a woman gets pregnant, she's in the home. She can't pass it off to somebody else, and it ends up in the house, unlike the man that could have it outside. What more can be done about this? And what are your thoughts about what Lola said about preventing these things?
Wow. Yeah. I just wanted to say what Tosin said about if mandates can be put in place, that will really be helpful. It's just like getting car insurance. The minimum is liability insurance. Whether you like it or not, you got to get a minimum. And it's not because you plan to have an accident. That's why you get car insurance. You just have to have it. So that would be very helpful so that it doesn't go too deep before you find out. Now, this all comes down to the foundation. The foundation. Churches should do more with in areas where people want to get into a relationship. They should help them. They should guide them. That's where it starts from. If we neglect that, we just join people anyhow because we just wanted to get married, then we are setting up families for failure. The scripture says if the foundation is destroyed, is the foundation. Is the foundation. If that foundation is not right, we are just building on sand. We are just building on sand. All the love, all the hey, I love you, I this, I that, go on vacation, it's all sand. Because anything can bring that building down. And this type of issue is definitely one of the biggest that will bring it down quickly, because it goes to the core of the foundation. So I think what churches should do more is try to do more counseling with people who are getting into relationships, who want to get married, who want to go into this. I don't care how old you are. Don't tell me you know it all. You need to get counseling. You need to get wisdom, direction from that. Where if we neglect that and we just get people married, just come, just let's do it, drive through marriages like we see today, we just set up people for more and more and more failure. So I guess the foundation is where churches need to work more on.
No, absolutely. I think you're spot on with that. Very quickly. So everybody here has done some of marriage counseling or the other. If a deceived father comes and says, I am in shock. I just found out my two sons are not mine. I just found out that my daughter is not my daughter. I'm so confused. I don't know what to do. And we talk about, um, uh, you know, I'm just confused. I mean, I'm shocked that this woman would do this. This is my precious, this baby that you love. Your baby girl is not yours. What sort of advice is it too heavy to tell the person you could still stay in that? I mean, how do you even say that? Is it, can we counsel a deceived father to remain in the lives of the children? Whatever he chooses to do is on him. But can we actually, and if we were to say that, how would you say that? How would you go about it? I'm happy for anyone to jump in. I think, but or is that something that we would say in our most Christian way? You've got to go ask the Holy Spirit what to do in this situation. I'm I'm just curious. Should a deceived father remain in the lives of the children legitimately? If you're the only parent this child has known for the last 11 years of their lives, there's a major deception here. Is it okay to just up and leave when you are the only person this child knows, although the mother has done what could be termed an unforgivable thing? And she's saying, forgive me, I'm sorry, whatever. What would you say to this deceived father who is asking, now, what do I do? Because he's confused.
Well, what I would say, if I may jump in
Yes,
quickly,
of course, sir.
I really wanted to hear what Tosin would say, but let me just share something briefly because I've been thinking about this, and as a man, you know, if I had that scenario, what would want, and the bottom line is this, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. You can't build a marriage on falsehood.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
You can't, if you find out the falsehood halfway, middle point, you just have to deal with it and bring out the truth. That's how you can really, because no man will keep living with falsehood knowing that he has been deceived. It will not work. He may love those kids to death, but the hurt, the trauma, the will be so deep in him, and he will live with that. And unforgiveness and creates more problems. So the truth has to come out. They just have to bring out the truth. Okay, the wife says, I'm sorry, but that I'm sorry is not enough. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry is not enough. Okay, there has to be repentance. There has to be restitution.
How do you do restitution? That is so true. What does restitution look like? You've gone and you've had these two children. They are not mine. Now you are telling me we were in a bad state now. Okay, let's even say they were they were very unhappy. Let's even, and you're so right. I love the angle you're taking this. It was a difficult time. The husband was barely around. He was working. He was not attentive to his wife's needs. The first time she was lonely. He travels abroad for 4 months, comes back, stays for 2 months, is gone for 3 months, come back. And the timing just worked. That the time was with his wife, whatever the case may be. It happened the first time. She was filled with shame. But the child brought so much happiness. They were suddenly very happy again for 2 years. So she kept quiet because she wasn't sure. Then his new job took him somewhere, or they had a problem, or, even he had, she thought maybe he was having an affair. Anyway, she fell again into this other guy, got into the second child again. Then after a while, things became better in their marriage. But she didn't want to rock the boat. So what if the man himself could see potentially that they did have a problem? He really wasn't there. He was not, so let's say she brings all those, but what is restitution for her in that situation? Because what you said is so true. First of all, the truth has to set everyone free. So yeah, the questions have been asked. Tell me when, how, when did you know? And everything has been said. Can she ever do anything to even regain his trust? Can a woman even, I don't know. What would you want it as a man? And I know everybody is different, but I'm enjoying listening to a man's perspective on this issue.
Well, the steps are very straightforward.
Hmm.
The first thing is there has to be humility in the process.
Hmm.
There has to be sincerity.
Hmm.
There has to be zero tolerance for blame game here. You can't operate like Adam in the garden. The woman thou givest me made me do this. No, 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 no. Or because you travel all the time, that's why I did this. That's not sincerity right now. Because you did this to me, you did that to me, that's why I did this again. So those three things have to be there. There has to be humility, there has to be sincerity, and there has to be zero blame game. The guilty person has to take full responsibility of her actions. You know, that's those three things have to be there. Now, if the woman is like, well, you caused it, you did this, I was so it's your fault, I did it, then there can never be healing in that relationship. So the woman has to come clean. She has to tell the truth as best as she knows it. And they have to identify who the true father is. She cannot protect whoever it is. She cannot say, I can't just release this information because if she's protecting somebody out there against her home, that's a problem. So if she can come clean, who the father is, then they have to investigate and find out who the father. The truth has to come out. Everything has to be brought to be
Everything has
open.
to come out.
Yeah,
Everything.
it has to come out,
Everything.
even though it
Yeah.
looks bad, it's not
Mm.
palatable, it has to come out.
Yeah.
Then when it comes out, the man can now decide, okay, what do I do based on all the facts I know? If he decides to divorce his wife, Matthew 19, verse 9 says, Jesus gave express permission.
Mm.
If it's based on sexual immorality, Jesus Christ said, yes, you can move on. So the man has to decide, okay, do I forgive? Regardless of everything I have heard, the truth has come out. This woman is sincere. She's humble. She's not blaming anybody. She's taking full responsibility. Okay, what do I do?
Yes.
Do I forgive and just keep the children and we just keep living our lives?
Mm.
So it now boils down to the man
Mm.
to decide what he wants to do,
Mm.
you
Mm.
know. But if the woman is arrogant,
Mm.
she's blaming everybody else apart from herself,
Yeah.
then that's a problem right there.
Yeah. Wow, spot on. No, I think this was really spot on, and I love how you broke it down because as you were speaking, I remember one of the scenarios that the ladies and I were thought about because there are scenarios, and I'm going to pose this to Tosi and Lola. The next question based on this, everything you said has moved us to what. If it's done right, it's first of all can be seen as a hopeless situation. First of all, whatever decision the man makes, if he needs to leave, like you very well said, biblically, there is grounds for it. However, if there is any option of the deceived father staying, I think each of the steps are very spot on. In a scenario where it's the third child out of four you have 4 children, and you're all about to go get your Canadian application done, and you run the test, and baby number 3 ain't yours. 1, 2, 4 is, and everybody was like brother, sister, one happy family, and you discover it. I think that is a classic scenario that everything that Dr. Bright just said are mandatory at this point. But let's even say he wants to stay. Lola, how do or Tosi, how do you should you tell that child? So let's start breaking down scenarios. Should you tell the child? Let me use this scenario of 1 out of 3 children isn't yours. Should that one child be told? At what age should they be told? How do you communicate it? You know, do you wait till they are full adults before you tell them that? If the child is 6 years old and the family is going to Canada and you find out, what do you really do in that situation? And then, of course, the next question I'll ask after that. So, ladies, any one of you can kick us off with that one.
Let me go back to, should a deceived father remain in the lives of the children? Dr. Bright said it, that the truth will set you free. Every time I watch these shows and there's some kind of secret underlining tone, I'm always so relieved when the truth comes out. Yeah. And I believe very strongly that the truth, would set people free. In that regard, the deceived father, I guess, if the guy knew from the onset, from when it happened, the moment she delivered, that she's like, okay, I got to tell you something, and she shares, and he decides to leave, hey, that's on him. But if he has been in that child's life for many years, I, as a pastor, would have to counsel some sort of, whether you leave or you stay in the marriage, please don't unplug yourself from that child. The child didn't do you any wrong. I would appeal to his conscience. I will appeal to the spirit man in him. I would do everything because I'm here for the interest of the child. Of course, when it now comes to, do the children have a right to know, or does the child have a right to know? Most definitely, I would always stand on that soapbox that the child needs to know. How you communicate it, now we can work on that. But the child also needs to know. I've seen some movies whereby the child is sick in the hospital, and it's only their father, the real father, that has the blood type or the bone marrow or whatever it is that they need to pass to the child. The child needs to be aware of who their real father is. So however you break it to them, we can work on that, like I said. But should a deceased father stay? It depends on how long. If you've been in that child's life for 10 years, please don't uproot yourself. Let's find a better way to try and handle your grief and your hurt and your disappointment, but let it not be placed on the child, because the child is innocent in all of this. And also, the child does have a right to know. And, that's my take.
Very interesting take. At what stage should a child be informed? At what stage, though? I love what you said, Tosin. If it's a little bit more complicated, because now my concern is, let's say these kids, like back to my scenario, 3 children, which is a real scenario, which we have seen, where some of the children was for the father and one child was not. But the child is about 7, 8 years old. Is that child ready for that? And is there a fear that from that day onwards, that child may be treated differently? And so the mother may start to wonder, the man is confused, because you might feel, is it too early? Should we be telling this child now? What is a 7-year-old going to handle that? My older brother and my younger sister are siblings, but this is not my dad. Like Lola, you said earlier on, it's so far reaching, this thing. I know there's no one size fits all, but just from what you've done with families, with public health, with mental health, and knowing some of these scenarios are real issues. And like Tosi said, people are just so upset, so much in pain. They're taking activities that have a long-term impact on the child. What would you add to what, how we could potentially go about some of these unique
Yeah, I mean, there's no clear answer to that question, really. aside from what Dr. Bright and Tosin said about, at the end of the day, the truth should set you free. So there's no compromise, especially with people of faith, that at the end of the day, we have to start with the truth and work our way up. At the same time, when it comes to children, there has to be a sensitivity as to when and how you relay that truth. Um, because children are different. I've heard scenarios where the child, in retrospect, the adult in retrospect, wish they knew when they were a child, because they'd always wondered, same with adopted kids or whatever. They've always wondered, why do I look different? Why do all my siblings look this way and I look that way? Or why, if I had known early that this was the case, at least I wouldn't think something was wrong with me, right? I wouldn't have grown up wondering why this was different, that was different.
Yeah.
So the adult in retrospect wish they knew. Then we've come across other adults that knew early and wish they didn't knew, because then that colored every interaction moving forward of
That's true. That's so true.
oh, I was treated this way differently because my father was different or my
Yeah.
mother was different or whatever the
Mm,
case. So
mm,
it's really where you have to be like Holy Spirit led and really know the child and really know what they can handle, what they
yeah.
can't handle, when is the right time to communicate, when is not the right time to communicate. Children in general, young children just want to be loved, right? So as long as there's no difference in treatment with other kids in that scenario, the father is loving them all the same, treating them all the same. I think at that point that is the primary thing. I'm always in my case, I always err towards the truth. Like, this is, mommy and daddy were not perfect. We made a mistake. This is a thought. We love you regardless. There's not going to be no difference. You're the same with everybody else. Communication and honesty, I think, is the key to all of this. And it's not going to be easy. I think the people affected in this situation shouldn't think that, oh, I'm just going to tell and that's it. Everybody should line up, understand. You're going to suffer the consequences of it. The child may make it difficult for you. There might be other repercussions. Just own it. Own that it might take some time to get everybody to a part where we're all okay. And that okayness should not be expected immediately, nor should it be the man should not be pressured to love the children or accept the children or step up outside of his own timeline to do so. As well, if the child needs to deal with it, they should not be pressured to deal with it. Everybody should be allowed to deal with the scenario in their own time, in their own pace, in their
mm,
own way,
mm,
with lots of prayer and support, you know.
mm. I like that. I like that. And that leads me to one more question as everybody was speaking on let's even say we have a scenario, where there can be healing. I love what I'm hearing on the show today, that what I am taking away is, first of all, there's hope. Because every time we hear these stories, they are so sordid. The betrayal is unbelievable. The court of social media has crucified everyone, and it really looks like this is the end. And I just love the perspective that everyone is bringing here of, if certain steps are taken, it does not necessarily have to be the end, but humility, sincerity, openness, how do you move forward? Pastor Bright, what would, with all of the best intentions, and I'll stick again to the family where, one of the children is the one that isn't for the husband and the others are. And at the point where you talked about, I also want to know who the father is, and you now know who the father is, and the father is confronted, and the father is probably he has his own family. So we really just bring this out to the table. What would you say if that father now also wants to, because the mother may never have told him, if he wants to be in that child's life, can we, or is it better to just, acknowledge it, stay away while we deal with this? How do we introduce it? Can we all sing kumbaya and be happy? Can we really have a path to healing, in the best of scenarios? In the best of scenarios. So when parents want to bring healing to this situation, and we've been open, laid the cards on the table, and we know who the real father is for this child that's in the home, what else can be done? Um, and what should not be done, For example, don't say, let's not tell them who the real father is for some years. Let's not do this. What do you think would be the best things to do in that scenario?
Oh, well, life is complex. Life is not always black and white in many cases, and that has been the say that has been true hundreds of years, and that will remain true. The bottom line is this: we have to be sensitive when it comes to the children. I like what Lola said, you know, because the problem was with you and your wife. The children have no part to play in any of this. They didn't ask for any of this. So there calls for serious sensitivity when it comes to the children, especially when the children they have grown with the family. You are all one family, and so that's very important. The timing is key, but the truth cannot be buried, because it will eventually come out. But the timing has to be right. The timing has to be prayed on, and allow God to lead to, because now you talked about now you now know the true father. He now wants to be involved in the child's life. Why not? He's the father. The child has to know at some point. It's not easy to reveal such truths, but like they say, truth is bitter at times. But the man has to know, the child has to know at some point, and there just has to be healing. There just has to be healing on every part, because this man who is the father of this child has a wife now and has his own family now. Now you are bringing
Absolutely.
this issue. His wife now has to deal with this problem.
Hmm.
His own kids now have to deal with this problem. So it's not getting wider and wider
Yeah,
and wider, but the truth will set everybody free.
absolutely.
Everybody on both sides free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So absolutely. Tosi, happy to hear. And I think that's the we did a show, I think it was in last season, if I'm correct, where we talked about secrets in relationships. This just reminded me of that show. That sometimes the actions that people take, they're so far reaching. And I think one of the beauty of this show is just bringing me back. If anything, anybody that listens can hear, if you're going through a challenge, your relationship, you're single, you're not married, that what Lola said about prevention is so important. Just before, when emotions arrive, like Pastor Bright said, you can come up with all sorts of reasons of what you did, but the consequences are so grievous that it can impact generations if not managed properly. Like Pastor Bright, your friend was saying that, your friend, the gentleman who wants to start again, he can't trust another woman. He's now questioning the children. So all of this is just showing that that it's so critical that as adults we really think clearly about the decisions that we make, that we take in life, and the impact. And I know we're talking about it from this show's perspective, but how it could impact anybody. But just I don't know if you can just really speak to the difficulty. And I know you do a lot of counseling, but again, these things fester because of secrets. You said something that, maybe if the woman initially told the husband about it without him finding out later, can that happen? We talked about there's some things, when we did the episode on some women, there's some things women will take to the grave. If it's possible not to ever find out, a woman will not want it found out. What do you do if a woman comes to counsel you and she hasn't told her husband, it's early days, she finds out? How do you break it to that person? Some people would say, you don't know my husband, he would rather I didn't tell him. He'd rather he didn't know. We hear all these things. But today we're saying it's only going to come back and bite you. So how do we help women who may know they're in this situation today? There's no blood test, no DNA, there's not been any reason, but they know that the timeline of that work travel and me being with my colleague and this baby popping up, It's possible. And she's at home. She might be listening to this. What would you say? Nothing has broken out yet. And she's thinking, maybe I can take this to my grave. Maybe I can just be quiet about this.
Um, I would never be in support of that. If someone came to me and said this is what they're going to take to their grave, I just believe, based on what we've all said about the truth setting someone free, I understand that people have levels to handling things. And, some, internalize their process, like, give me a few days, let me go think about it. This betrayal is too much. Or some people just blow out and want to burn everything down. I get it. But what I'm saying is that I would never co sign to keeping a secret with such gravity. What I'm going to help the lady understand, and even the man, when the decision is made to share with him, is we all have betrayed Jesus. We all have this. I would tell the guy, this is your greatest test of forgiveness in life. Do you understand? What is it that we did to Jesus and he forgave us and still went to the cross? He could have easily just said, let this cup pass over me. I'm not doing this for these people. They are so ungrateful. They don't deserve it. But he did. And so I'm going to be like, this is your true test of forgiveness. Whether you stay or not, you need to bring your place to a place of healing to forgive. I understand. It also boils down to what Dr. Bright was saying about be humble, be open, and do not do the blame game. I also want to add, be accountable. It's time for you to step up and be accountable to say, you know what, I did this, irrespective of what happened. You were out, you were in the military, I didn't see you for a while, all those things, and these are the reasons why. You can say that, but it cannot come across as it's your fault, I did this. And so my thing is, can you forgive? Yes, you can. There's nothing too hard for God to help with. I know it is difficult. I know it's excruciating. But what I'm saying is that when you come out on the other side, you can now be used. Mind you, even though this thing that happened is totally wrong, nothing catches heaven by surprise. And you never know whether this is the road that God wanted you to go on to help other people come out of their situation. So you always have to find the lessons in everything. I know it's easy for me to say this, but trust me, when you are being faced with a lot of challenges, you've got to see what is God saying about this situation. And that's the way I'll approach it and cancel the lady and the guy when, the decision is broken.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. I love, 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 love this. Just before we round up, Lola, please give me some of your. I love the way Lola will bring some. I know a lot of perspectives have been given, but just talking about almost like speaking on behalf of the child in different seasons, of their lives, and having to have this sort of thing, because this pain is very, very real. And there's a lot of brokenness. And we see so many things in the lives of children. We don't even know. You see, when you talked about the statistics that this is so ripe in Africa, I don't know how loads of children are dealing with this and their mental health. And when we talked about how can families heal, just from a mental health perspective, maybe you can just round us up with, just things that we should remember again as we navigate through this as a community. Because my concern is that, we don't have enough voices in social media giving hope. Everybody's like, what? Burn the house down. Like Tosi said, women are evil. All women are bad. We just hear, boom, that's all we hear. What are some of the voices that, especially coming from the church, that we should start speaking to? If this is your reality, there is hope. If this is your reality, there's a sign of something bigger. Like Tosin said, look at this awesome sacrifice God made. And if a man chooses to live, you can't fault him, but is there something you can teach him about how he could still be a father, the way God was a father to the prodigal, that he can still be a father to this child? Just to give us one or two points on, as a community and as a church, what we should be doing and being proactive, because we're so reactive to these issues. We need to get ahead of the things going on around us in our local church, in our community, and start speaking to it. So I'd love to know what your closing thoughts are.
No, I really, really love what Tosin said about, at the end of the day, you have to be the bigger person here as the adult. And think about all the grace that God has afforded you as an individual in your own individual race. We're all like, we have the privilege of grace in our daily lives, right? And that's how we need to interact with everyone. So I really just love how she just brought us back to, at the end of the day, we're all sinners in need of grace, and God gave His only Son, to die for us and take away, what we should have paid the consequences for. And at the same time, as adults, we have to just put the children, we have to think about the children, both and before you do it and after you do it. It's not all about you. And being a child is hard enough. Dealing with external things is hard enough. When they all, there's a I think it's African proverb that says that when two elephants fight, is the grass that suffers.
Yes.
And when stuff like this happens, it's very easy for us to make it about the man and the woman and
Mm,
neglect to think about what impact it has on the child,
mm,
and their future and the way they think of themselves and the way they process who they are and the adults that they're meant to be. It has, the consequences roll on and on. And so, if anyone is in this situation, I think it's in the best interest for them if they think about, okay, God adopted me into His family. I'm an adopted child as well. And He loves me and He cares for me. That if we put that same perspective on the child, that regardless of the biology, we are at the end of the day responsible for these children, their welfare, their well-being. I think it will help us. That is in no way to negate the real feelings that come with these type of discoveries, but I think it helps to think about, okay, let's think about these children here and what's best for them and what arrangement is best for them and what involvement is best for them. There's some situations where it is not in the child's best interest to involve the other biological parents, right? It's not that they don't have a right to know, but
yeah.
sometimes we don't know the circumstances and
Yeah.
it might not be in the best interest. Everything is on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
It's very important for them to seek counsel, a trusted counsel, a godly counsel,
Mm,
and to go through family therapy if that's available. But at the end of the day, I think that if they're able to put the child's feelings, future first, because we were assigned to be caretakers of these children, I think it helps navigate this a little better. That's all I can say. Is it going to be easy? No.
yeah.
But, with God's help.
Wow, wow, fantastic, fantastic. I think this has been like one of our audience members said, and thank you to everyone in the audience. Thank you for your comments. Said this is such an interesting conversation. I think it was awesome. I don't know if Dr. Bright wants to round up with any last comments, but it was so great having your thoughts. I think you really helped us nail a path forward for families when you said these are the things that need to be done, and the ability and the willingness. Basically, what I took from what Dr. Bright said is, if adults are willing to be adults first and do the right thing, then we can have a conversation about what can potentially happen. And I think that's the truth. And I think that's even how salvation is, because even God said, come, let us reason together. Though your sin be as scarlet, they can be white, but we've got to reason it out and bring everything to the open. And I just want to say big thank you to everyone, Tosin, Lola, Dr. Bright. Excellent session. I learned a lot, to be honest with you, not just on this topic, but on how we deal with complicated issues by the Spirit of God. So thank you to everyone who has joined us for the premiere of season 3. We're excited. Today's session was Help, I'm Not the Father. We are back on April 23rd, where we'll address another help series titled Help, I Am Going Through a Career Crisis. Listen, the world has changed, and our career, our businesses, so many people are in limbo in this season of their lives. But at the same time, we're hearing how this is a fantastic period for people's lives. We don't have to be stuck in a rut. Let's have a practical discussion on how do we reposition ourselves, our career, and in most cases, our lives, given 2 years of mental, emotional, physical trauma that mankind has gone through. You don't want to miss it. We look forward to you joining us again. And from all of us, thank you so much, Dr. Bright, for being here. It
You
was
can
such.
right before you close, Dr. Wright, does he have
Oh,
anything?
I'm sorry. Yes. Apologies. Dr. Bright, you're on mute.
Um, a word came to my mind while you were trying to round up, and
Yes.
that's the word adoption.
Hmm.
Adoption. If a couple find out or a man finds out that a child or several children don't belong to him, he should adopt them. He should
Wow.
adopt them.
Hmm.
He's grown with them. He loves them. They are part of his family. Yes, they're not my blood. Adopt them. I'll adopt these three children, you know, because I just love them. So that word came to me strongly: adoption, adoption. So instead of sharing this whole thing apart, just adopt them. And the wife has asked for repentance. She has showed she's sincere. She has showed she wants to move forward. She wants to get it right. Then just the man should just adopt his children and just move on.
I think that word is a word of the Spirit because we're all here because we're all adopted children of God. And I think that is what you just answered is actually the Father's heart for this situation that's becoming more prevalent. When somebody said take the higher road is adoption. My goodness. I feel as if this was just a word. And I pray that this message can go further out for a lot of hurting families, a lot of families where there's pain. That is the heart. And may God help everyone going through that trauma. It's a journey, like we said, it's a long journey. Nobody can tell anybody how to go through it, but there's hope at the end of the day. And I hope for everyone listening to this, you will take that away in how we do things and always let the Father's heart guide us in how we make decisions. Thank you so much, Dr. Bright. Such an honor to have you here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And I look forward to seeing everyone. All of us, we look forward from myself, Tosin Lola, the host of My Take Show. We want to say thank you and see you on April 23rd. Bye, everyone. Bye.